Happy New Year! Welcome to 2024. One of the things that has me most intrigued regarding all of the videos that I watch is the incredible belief that people believed giant humans used to exist. There is of course no evidence for this, but that doesn't stop people from believing it all the same. But today someone has actual proof, apparently, that giants were real. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon and Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we begin today, a big thank you to the sponsors of today's video, World of Warships. World of Warships is a free-to-play naval warfare game. And the great thing about this game in particular is that new content is released every single month. Whether that be new ships, in-game nations, cosmetics, or even ship classes. You can always count on enjoying fresh gameplay experiences in World of Warships' stunning 12v12 arenas. There has been some awesome updates, including Godzilla v Kong, Transformers, and Megadeth collaborations. Now, World of Warships has more than 40 dynamic maps. Now, World of Warships has more than 40 unique maps, with dynamic weather, all of which have been updated with stunning new water effects and textures that make the game's seas virtually indistinguishable from the real deal. And there are a multitude of ship classes to choose from. You can conquer the oceans aboard history's most iconic battleships, destroyers, aircraft carriers, or cruisers and submarines. World of Warships has a passionate and dedicated fan base. So join the action in-game, participate in discussions on the World of Warships official Discord server, and tune into live streams or participate in tournaments. Download World of Warships using my link in the description, and then when you register, use the code HPPY NWYR 2024 for a huge starter pack, including a free ship, 300 doubloons, 1 million credits, 7 days of premium account time, 1 ship, 3 Santa's gift containers, the New Year constellation flag, and 10 New Year sky camouflages. Right, back to today's video, which is from Divergent. Now, you may recognise his name or his face as he's been on the channel before, and today he wants to share some evidence with us where he believes giant humans existed. This should be interesting. Take it away, Divergent.
The ultimate proof to all the pictures and photos and all your questions. Look at this painting. This is a painting in Italy, 1700s, before the 1800s, the reset. What do you see in this painting?
The mudflood reset was apparently in the 1800s, so he's talking about before then.
Paintings before the age of photography, even though technology existed, of course, many years ago, like thousands and hundreds of years ago, but for our humanity, before photography, this is the painting. Paintings show the real world. What do you see in this painting? Let's zoom, and we see this. Oh, we see big humans and small humans, and these are not kids. These are normal people. These are our humanity, you and me, in the 1700s, along with a big humanity, the big humans. And this has nothing to do with perspective, because as you can see, painters, as you know, in Italy, they were super intelligent and they respected mathematics and perspective. So that's why people in the background are smaller, but even people in the background, look at this, some of them are bigger than the small ones.
Thankfully, this was a place I recognised straight away, because I've been there, St Mark's Square in Venice. This painting was by an artist called Francesco Guardi, and it depicts a typical scene at St Mark's Square. I would say that those small figures are children. If you look at the clothing of Italian children in the 1700s, in that time period, you can quite clearly see that these are very typical clothes for that time.
But in this case, these ones who are like very close to each other, look at this. Big people, big people, small people, and especially in this, well, here's all of them are big, but here you can clearly see in the middle of the picture, of the photo, and also the actual size of the building is now definitely all the buildings you've seen with big doors and big windows. That's why, because this is the humanity which is double our size. Let's move on to see a screenshot of all this, and that's the reason why this explains everything you've seen so far for the cathedrals, the churches, and the big buildings. It was for a bigger humanity.
Huge openings like the ones we see in Venice here are typical of times when people used to ride on horseback or in those really large carriages. But what of the smaller openings to the left and right of this image? They're not big enough for those giants that you mentioned.
And this bigger humanity has been represented in the paintings of the 1700s, especially in Italy, which is part of the empire, which is wrongly understood as the Roman Empire. This is the same
Why would it be the Roman Empire in the 1700s? The Roman Empire ended 1,500 years ago. In the mid-1700s, Venice actually had its own republic.
Plaza, piazza, right, in Italy, with the building. As you can see here, this is our humanity, and you can see the doors, well, the arches in on the sides and the size of our human species. So now you can compare the same arches you see in the real photo picture. You see our humans, you and me, where my mouse is, and the big humans, which are double our size. So usually if the men of our society, of our humanity, are between 160 centimeters and 180 centimeters, the other big humans will be between 3.2 meters and 3.6 meters, so 3.5 meters high, whatever is that in feet. You can check for it. For more than 3 meters high, which is a normal size humanity for that time.
3.5 meters? That's 11.5 foot tall. To put that in some sort of perspective, a giraffe grows to around 4 or 5 meters. There is no way that a human could ever be that tall. The tallest human to have ever lived was only 2.72 meters. 3.5 meters. Wow.
And in this case, yeah, as well, you see the big humans, and well, this is like kind of like sad because of the painting, but the other photos are much clearer in the sense of what you see. This, for example, it's the same piazza or plaza, and look at this. So these are not kids, these are adults. These are adults. So you see adults dressed in those clothes, and then you see the big humans, and all those big humans were dressing like that. So what you call the nobles, right? Same you see in Italy and France. So it's just like one of those things to bear in mind, that you do have proof.
All I'm seeing there is depictions of children, and larger people in the foreground and smaller people in the background. This is in no way proof that giants existed.
Like in this case, another place in Rome, you see the arches and you see the base. So take a clear look at the humans, and take a clear look especially to these humans, especially this human here who stands at the base of this arch, at the column. His size and where his head is. And now you just check the screenshot, the zoom. Actually, this zoom will be much better like that. So look at his height and take into consideration the column, the base of the column. And now let's check the real world, the photos of our society, and look at the size of the same spot where that human was and the size of the head. So it's like half the size. So that human there was as big as the base here, and our humanity is half.
So because in a painting the human looked a bit bigger than it does in real life, then that means giants existed. But what I will say here is there could be some perspective at play. Look at the orientation of the painting. It looks like it's from an elevated position and a bit closer. The photograph is much lower. I don't know, that could be the reason.
That's why we have the big buildings with the big doors and the big windows, because it was for bigger humans, twice our size. Yeah, the question is now for you, this is as well. So this is like a photo, black and white photo from the times of the early 1900s. And this is your humanity, our humanity, and that's the size of this human, which is half of the size of the other human being who was from the previous human species. And this one as well is a typical photo of the days when they were doing excavations, because everything was mud flooded and everything was full of dirt. So here you can see clearly the difference in size.
Those columns don't look the same. Perhaps the artist was using some artistic license in his painting.
Our human species and their human species, half the size. Big question is, were they the builders of all these buildings? Most probably yes. Who is their god? And where did they disappear? Because we didn't find any of their bodies. We only found the buildings. The buildings were covered in mud and vegetation. So something happened and they just disappeared. So either they were vaporized by some technology or they just moved along to a different continent.
Vaporized by technology. Dear oh dear, what a claim that is.
And now to show you some of the humans that were still left in the 1800s, especially in the late 1800s, people who, in this case, they had a natural body. Because there's two types of humans. I've spoken about this before in the previous videos. There's humans who are gigantic, suffer from gigantism, which is like a disease of the DNA. And then there's humans who have a fit body. Oh, this one was like really bad. I'm sorry about that. That was supposed to be a really cool picture. But anyway, humans who have like a really good body, fit, no genetic problems. They're just big and fit. and they're big because the natural size of their bodies and their bones is different from ours, like in this case. So yeah, there's people, of course there's still people today who grow big, which is probably something to do with our DNA still having some of the DNA of the previous humanity, which means that at some point maybe even they are our creators, who knows.
All those pictures show are incredibly tall people with regular sized people. The first man in the car, for example, was a man called Theodore McNow, who was 7'10". Here is the photo of him next to the car and not stood in it. Yes, he was tall, but not a giant.
Yeah, just some photos for you to understand or to have a visual image of what might it look like for our human species to live at the same time as that human species of their humanity.
This one is a man called Joseph de Sorck, a mere 2.3 meters tall. I mean, that's only 48 centimeters taller than me. If Divergent is only going to share photos of really tall people and paintings that he's misunderstood as evidence that giants existed, then I think we're going to have to call this a day here. So I'm going to have to say it, we're done and dusted for another Tinfoil Tuesday. That was really, really poor evidence. Let me know in the comments what you thought of that. Thanks so much for watching today. It is of course appreciated. If you enjoyed it, please to consider subscribing to the channel. And of course, if you really enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button too. And why not share it as well amongst your friends. Just enough time to once again thank World of Warships for sponsoring today's video. Remember to download the game for free, click the link in the description, and then when you sign up, you use the code HPPY NWYR 2024 to receive that huge starter pack. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great week as always, and I'll see you on Friday for the second part of Anthony Baer's triangulation experiment, whatever that's going to bring. See you then.